Howdy, y'all. Let me turn on this music. Welcome. Good morning. So we've got a very weird special day. Because I wasn't able to get anybody for the captain's table on Saturday, but I asked Space Mano actually reached out and said he wanted to talk about the topic we're going to talk about, but he wasn't available. I was like, you know what? I'll reach out to Morph, because those are, usually I can't get Morph on because of odd times for them. So I said, let's do a show together on the raids and dungeons of Star Citizen. And he said, sure. So he's going to be on here in about 45 minutes. We're going to do a setup, and then we'll get started at like 9:30. How y'all doing? Ooh, should probably turn on that. Up. I'm setting up the thumbnail. Speaking of raids, I just soloed Obituary and got 2 NN13s for each of us. If you want one, of course I want one. The problem is I've been in orbit. I've done orbit a couple of times now, and every time I go, they're fucking elevator's broken. Asian server. What's an NN13? It's something you need for weapon. Boop, 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 boop. Episode 22. Count. Morning, Ghost. Morning, Social Confused. One of these days I need to learn whatever dark magic people use to get stuff from the orbit elevator. Apparently you just go to the Asian servers. Oh, of course, the opposite side of the planet. Yeah. I'm also going to be doing the office hours after this. So the plan is that the setup is at 9. We're going to go live at 9:30. So setup is at 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, which is like 7 a.m. Pacific. And then at 30 minutes after that, we'll get started. The show should be about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. And then we'll, so that, like, for me, that's 9:30 to 12:30-ish. And so then after that, directly after that, I'm going to do my office hours. Normal office hours, but it's going to be at an earlier time. And that office hours is going to be however long it's going to be. So we're just not going to do office hours super late today. That's all. So I'll actually be done by like 6 p.m. Eastern. Oh shit, I realized. Fuck. This is early enough that people at CIG could fucking watch this. Oh, fuck. Hey, Joy Pop. With people who they might actually watch. Oh, fuck. Whoops. I accidentally into Mike territory. Just because I couldn't get anyone on Saturday, but I could get the one person who's interested in the topic was Space Tomato, but Tomato is back in Turkey, so Tomato has weird times. So I figured I'd get Tomato to come in at an early time for the normal, because it's summer and I have summer off. And I asked Morph, and Morph also said, yeah, sure, I'll come on and talk. So, maybe you have weird times. So, as a result, listen, Stefan, it's not that I have weird times. It's that I live in America, and I have a job during the day. Lady Space Patrol, is your daughter a freshman? Because I can give you some advice as a teacher of high school students. So you're in Canada, so it might be a little different, but the skills are always the same. The most important thing that she can do is rest beforehand. Not to cram beforehand, but to rest. And almost all tests are written in this format if it's a multiple choice test. It is going to be at least 2 of those options are going to be what we call teasers. They're going to be wrong, but they're going to be very wrong, typically. One will be a sort of correct answer. So it will be an answer that is possibly correct, but not technically correct. And one will be the technically correct answer. So practicing taking tests is always important. Resting beforehand with the tests, making sure that they have plenty of, they eat well beforehand. They drink lots of water. Those sorts of things are the most important facts, other than, of course, studying. But if you're already at the point where she has to take tests, she hasn't studied, those are the best things you can do. Yeah. Yeah, mints or gum. A plausible distractor. Yeah. We never called them distractors. We called them teasers. And I prefer the term teaser to the distractor because distractor sounds cheaty. Studying is good. If she's studying, she doesn't have to worry about it too much. The biggest thing at that point is just making sure her mind is clear, because more often than not, with my students, when I give them tests, the questions they get wrong, especially the ones who've prepared, they overthink the question because they typically didn't sleep the night before, or they didn't get, either because they were nervous about the test or they were taking something else, they were working or something else like that. So that's the biggest cause for a lot of people who were prepared but got stuff wrong, was mostly just they were overstressed in their brain. So anything that can reduce the level of stress, someone said cortisol, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know that shit, but reducing the level of stress is the key to performing well. Yes, studying in a quiet room or in school is always a good idea too. As I told the kids I work with, prep, but don't stress. We did all the hard work up front, so you don't need to stress now. Get the points you can get and don't worry about it. Yep. So we have Morph coming on. Anyone else? Yes, it's Morph and Space Tomato. Hey, Sai. Your 12-year Star Citizen anniversary. Damn. You're an OG backer, aren't you? So he couldn't do the original time. So we've got, that's the reason why I did this time. So it's going to be Space Tomato and Morph. Because the weird time for him was Saturday at, hold on. Fuck. Saturday at for me, it was it's 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. But for Tomato, because he's in Turkey, that would have been 12 p.m., midnight his time. So, and he had just moved back to Turkey, so that's why he couldn't do that. Yeah, it gets worse at 7 p.m., then college classes, assignments due at midnight for them, then too much dopamine addiction on their phones, get them bored, ban their phone, college classes, sports need their own place, need another place. Yeah. Yeah, he takes 6 months in the U.S. and 6 months in Turkey. Morph and Tomato is a strong lineup. And I think this topic is important, which is we're going to look at a line in mind. Why is my nose so stuffed up? I'm going to go get something to clear my nose. I just took antihistamine too, so. Not antihistamine, but I take a 24-hour allergy pill. It's probably because it takes a little bit longer for it to kick in. Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry, my nose got distracted. It's Align and Mine and Stormbreaker, if these are going to be the Star Citizen equivalent of dungeons or raids. It's a topic that I think is important to look at, because one of the things that is going to be pretty clear is that CIG is going to copy what does work from MMOs and other games, but they're not going to do it in a way that is just going to be like other MMOs or other games. Typically, from my understanding of the methodology of CIG's designers, they don't want to just copy paste. They want to see what works and then work it into their own design language. And from what I can tell, based off of so far, this does seem like their answer to raids or dungeons in Star Citizen, especially since we're going to also have in the future the depths and the invasion of the instances, and the invasion of the Vandul, both of which are instanced events, sandbox events, or sandbox activities. Is this for Star Citizen Live? Nope, this is for Captain's Table. I always listen to the pod after the fact. How much of a role do we have in the discussion? So feel free to talk about it. I mean, both myself and the guests will look at we'll look at the chat. But after the initial discussion, we do question and answer session, which you can ask questions at that point, and it should work fine. Thanks for talking the noise like us. No problem, Jakiro. I knew people were going to get mad when I said that. I forgot to bring up contested zones, but yeah, that too. I mean, I'll tell you right away. I don't believe that Star Citizen will ever have traditional dungeons or raids. That's just not what CIG will do. You're not going to have the traditional, raid where it ends with a big fight, against a raid boss and that kind of stuff. Will something look like a raid? Probably. They'll never call it a raid. It'll never be structured like a raid. It'll be its own unique take on these sorts of ideas. I think the instance proc gen Area 18 sewers will be the typical dungeon. That's the depths, and I don't know if that will be or not. I may be wrong in thinking that it's proc gen, because I think they said it's proc gen, but I think that's going to be less dungeony and more roguelike-y. Paul, did they call their missions on the Consider's raids? They might have, but I don't think they did. And I think they meant raid less as in a raid on, like when you'd have like a raid with a boss, and more like a raid, like a Viking raid. They need to fix the distro missions. There's a lot of trespass issues. Well, that's the question. Like, Stormbreaker ends with a big boss at the end. Is that a raid? I don't think so. That's a completely different topic when it comes to like persona non grata, the reputation. I am not happy with where CIG is moving with reputation. It feels less like a social management and more of just a leveling system, which I think is bad, because the entire original concept of reputation was more of a filter. See freelancer. And now it's like, no, it's just how you level up with your various organizations. If those two are, would Siege of Orison also be a raid, time gated or not? I guess. I mean, like, here's the thing. Chat, define a raid. What is a raid? How would you differentiate a raid from regular content or from dungeons? I think being friends with Hurston should hurt your rep with Baron. I agree. But that's not how CIG wants to do it because it's too complicated for them. A sudden attack on an enemy. I don't know if that's what most people would define raids as for MMOs. Easy the Goon, is that raids or is that a dungeon? If you're saying multiple people with bosses and puzzles with mechanics, then that's basically what Stormbreaker and Align and Mine are. They have puzzles, keys you have to get to unlock, and then figure out how to align. There's no like specific. No, go here to do this. You just have to know how to do it. Raid are dungeons on steroids, require more strategy and teamwork. Raid is a large-scale group-based activity that requires a team of 10 or more players to complete, while a dungeon typically is smaller or more manageable activity with a team of 5 players. Wouldn't raid content be like the new underground that was mentioned in ArtCorp districts? Would that be a raid? Because it's quite literally underground, but also it's instanced with like 4 people. This is part of the problem. I have seen 3 different definitions of raids and dungeons in the chat from 3 different people. Hey, yeah, people love their boxes. As I said in my critique of CIG, people love their boxes. That's one of the reasons why we'll never see a raid or a dungeon in Star Citizen. They'll never call something, you know, go to this raid and do this, or go to this dungeon and do that. A, the terminology makes no fucking sense for a space game. And B, I don't think they want to bring that analogy to them. I think they want to take what they know and they want to create a raid-like or dungeon-like experience, but they'll be different. Like, I don't think any of CIG's raid-like experiences would be like a raid. They're not going to be instanced, for instance. I think that there may be dungeon-like experiences, which will be probably more like raids for typically, but like the depths is probably going to be instanced to a certain party size. Paul, could you work up the lore to bring PlanetSide to Star Citizen, a planet where the UEE had headhunters and citizens for posterity have a scrap? There's not actually, I don't create the lore, Tim. I just read it, but there is actually a location like that. But it's a 2-way fight. It's on Chiron between 2 separate nations on that planet, because that planet has seceded from the UEE after the Mezer regime fell. So they've been in a constant civil war for decades. Yep, they talked about Distro Center raids, but I feel like they meant like actual raid, like Major Theft Assault, not a game raid. Yeah, more like a heist. What do you think about those Division Underground Instance Dungeons raids where they were done in the Division 1? I don't remember those. Maybe. I'm sorry, Stefan. To be honest, I also think they need instance raids to be able to have server capacity to handle events in it. They've talked about that already. But again, we're using the terminology partially because I'm intentionally using it because it's what people know, and Star Citizen is an MMO. But I don't think they're ever going to have traditional raids and dungeons. They're going to have raid-like and dungeon-like, but some of them are going to be straight up open world. Sandboxy. Yeah, GTA doesn't have raids and dungeons. They have heists, which are basically the same thing. Back to studio. Do. Hey, Ferrister. How you doing, buddy? Can we get a follow shout out? Oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. What is it called? Oh, someone already did that. Thank you. Whoever is my mod who I didn't know who's still here. Probably Cuban. I'm currently rating my fridge. Yeah. Well, if we look at it this way, we could go for a classic MMORPG style, and then everyone will know the dungeon and where it is. But even shooters at Division have same type of things. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see... We'll see CIG's own take on it, but I doubt that they're going to not do it. What type of loot do you think CIG does in the future? Blueprint mainly? Rare mats? Rare gear? Yes, all of those things. I think the main way, and you can already see this with Stormbreaker, and with Hathor, is these sorts of sandbox activities, what CIG is calling it. I'm only saying sandbox activities in lots of quotation marks because it makes Elliot sad when you don't use those words. And you don't want to make Elliot sad. You can make him mad, but just don't make him sad. Oh, Inner Hype is here too. Thank you, Inner Hype. But I think it's clear because if you notice, all of those materials are used for either missions or for Wicklow, and Wicklow is the stand-in for crafting right now. Now, Wicklow will always exist. They'll always have some sort of rare things that you can get that if you can't craft it yourself, but in the future, you should be able to use those materials or the blueprints you get from them or the loot to be able to either copy, upgrade, create, whatever. It's crafting. Crafting and base building are their sort of loot. We'll have other loot that it's just sort of going to be there, you know, slightly better, maybe tier 2, tier 3 weapons or whatever, or armor. Then they better hurry up. What do you mean they better hurry up? It's going to take them at least a year to get to that point. They could do, yeah, Tim. They could definitely do a planet side thing, and that's literally what the I want to say Kerberos, but it's not the right one. It's not Cerberus. What the fuck is his name? Chiron. The Chiron system, with the planet of, I think, Chiron, is, or not Chiron system. Yeah, it's Chiron system. Was originally supposed to be the planet side planet. Like, before procedurally generation landing happened, that was supposed to be the place where you would land, and then you would get involved in the conflict in one or the other, and you'd have like a battlefield style map where you could fight with one side or the other. They need devs to work on Star Citizen to get what they needed. They are working on Star Citizen. The issue is not if they're working on Star Citizen or not. It's what state Star Citizen is in for them to be allowed to release it. Based off the monthly reports, there's a lot of stuff being done for Star Citizen. Specifically, they mentioned the process of doing this, but I can't remember exactly the name of it. I'm going to say like ailerons and those sorts of things, control surfaces. The control surface stuff is already through its first pass. We know that both crafting and base building are done in their first pass with developer UI. They got everything to function the way they want it to. Scanning is being worked on. Engineering part 1 is coming out soon. So like a lot of the pieces of the puzzle for Star Citizen are there or are in the process of being finished, which I know it sounds like, well, it's not done yet. It's like, I get it. But at the same time, it's also the important part of that whole thing is that it's being worked on. Because in the past, if CIG said something, they just said something. They weren't necessarily working on it. Now they're actively working on it, which means if they're actively working on something, it's typically, depending on the state, 6 to 9 to 12 months away. I agree, Rolly. They need to stop saying this is not a limited time event and then obsoleting the event in a month. That's a problem, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people, myself included, were quite vocal when CIG said when it turned out that they were removing script from the pool in terms of you being able to get Wicklow favors from the script. The problem is that CIG has Wicklow, and Wicklow is their tool to getting people to participate in these events so that they can, drive engagement. What they need to do is be able to drive engagement with their new event without obsoleting the old events, the old locations, the old activities. All of the fundamental parts of Squadron 42 are in Star Citizen. It's just not all the parts of Squadron 42 are ready for Star Citizen. Like, the new quantum travel, some form of engineering. Oh, what is it called? Maelstrom. Those are all done or in the process of being finished for Squadron 42, but they have it translated over to Star Citizen because they need to make them ready for Star Citizen. But the actual things are done. network communication is a big one. Making it work for the Star Citizen backend. No, of course, there are going to be some parts of Squadron 42 which aren't in Star Citizen, and some parts of Star Citizen which won't be in Squadron 42. But the parts that you're asking for, these like the very specific parts that we're holding up Star Citizen, are effectively the same. And we know that the parts that aren't in Squadron 42 but are in the PU are being worked on. Like I said, crafting and base building, I doubt are going to be in Squadron 42. There's no reason for them to be in Squadron 42, but they are in Star Citizen, and they are in a stage of completion. It's just a matter of what stage that is. Like, we know that Maelstrom is finished and is in the process of being adapted to Star Citizen, but it's just not fully there yet. And a lot of the people who are going to work on things like Maelstrom or the flight modules, that kind of stuff, would also be working on other things that are important for Star Citizen, so those things need to be factored over. But, like, I don't think that there are people who are working on Squadron right now who are vital to the creation of Star Citizen. It's just not how that works. It's one of my frustrations for Star Citizen this year, of the whole year of stability, was that, like, year of stability means that they're going to focus on fixing the problems they already had. They're basically, this whole year is effectively just them going back and tackling legacy issues at the expense of future issues. So when you have people who are like, well, I want X in Star Citizen, it's like, well, you're not going to get X in Star Citizen this year. You might get it next year, but not this year, which is going to cause people to go, well, Squadron 42 is still holding up the game. It's like, it probably is a little bit, but not nearly as much as you think. What's holding up Star Citizen is Star Citizen. Yeah, and that's another issue I have is I'm concerned that what they're doing is they're just going to pave it. They're just going to, like, make it useless again in 8 to 16 months. They labeled it as a year, but I don't think it'll be a year. Why would they introduce features to destabilize ahead of Squadron 42 release? I think that puts more planning in CIG's department than is actually happening at CIG. I don't think CIG is thinking more than 3 to 6 months ahead of time, because I don't see them thinking about this, the how do we deal with Star Citizen when Squadron 42 is out. I think they honestly sat down and were like, our funding is getting lower, and we have a lot of people who are frustrated in our own company about X, Y, or Z situations. Let's fix the problems now, because we've got the big overarching issue, which is server meshing, done. Let's go back and fix what we can now while we sort of harden server meshing. And then once we get to the point where we feel like server meshing is in a good position and the back end stuff is being replaced, all the other stuff we need to get replaced is replaced, then we can move forward. So it's less of a like long-term, we have a plan, and more of a just like, oh fuck, oh god, fight the fires. That thing's fucking broken. Let's go rip the thing out and like replace the load-bearing mission system. I'm not saying you lack knowledge, lady. I'm just saying I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that I don't believe that that's where CIG is right now, because that puts more planning and onus on CIG than I think I've ever seen. Not you, Paul. This. Oh. Yeah, and there's a couple of people who I've talked to. Jin's one of them. There's a couple of people who've worked in game development and said, yeah, this is the right decision. And I get it. And I think partially, and this is only based off of the one conversation that they had with why am I blanking on his name? Benoit. But I also think that the ATC system and what they're calling now the transport system, that system was such a bugaboo for Benoit that it just like, no, we're not moving forward until this is fucking fixed. This pisses me off personally. I wish to take this out of the code and then put it into a fighting ring and then punch it to death. Has just tuned in. Have you heard anything about the rumor of Montreal team being laid off and moved to the UK? That would be weird, but where's this rumor from, Janos? Because they literally just opened up the Montreal studio like a year ago. That would be very weird. Let me look it up real quick. All right. Set up here in about 5 minutes. Join us. Okay. So, looking at their website right now, Austin still has 6 positions open. Finance, production, so finance, marketing, sales, player experience, community manager. Okay. That's odd. No, they had a community manager position open at Austin. Game support specialist and legal counselor. Legal coordinator. Frankfurt has 3 positions open. Manchester has 40 positions open, but Montreal is still hiring. They have 3 jobs open for Montreal. Artist and online platform engineering and tools. So there's no way they're closing Austin or Frankfurt anytime soon. And they still have 6 to 3 positions open. I don't know where you're getting this rumor that Montreal is closing down. There may be that some people are being laid off because they need to make them smaller, make themselves smaller in Montreal. Because there's probably a lot of do-overs. Like when Turbulent was Turbulent, there was a lot of things they needed done as Turbulent. But now that they're CIG Montreal, there's probably some contracts they were still working on as Turbulent that they're wrapping up. And then those jobs are not important to CIG or were not specifically related to CIG. So those people are getting laid off. But I don't see them acquiring Turbulent only to shut them down right afterwards. Getting it from Star Citizen refunds, where are they getting this evidence from? Because it's one thing to say there's a rumor, there's another to say, like, there's evidence for it. Yeah. So the answer is, if there's a rumor, it's a rumor. I could still see it being true, but I don't see it being they're shutting down the entire studio and moving them over, because they literally just spent a fuck ton of money to buy them like 2 years ago. I could see them laying off a few people because the Turbulent contracts had, because if I remember correctly, they still had like government contracts and other things that Turbulent was working on before the acquisition. And they were going to continue to work on those contracts until they were finished. Like, I know one of the fucking marketing managers left. But they left. They didn't get laid off. They left to go find a new job. New drama? It's just typical, like, the refund subreddit is desperately trying to stir up some drama about CIG failing again. Because they're mad that CIG made more money than they've ever made in an entire month, last month. Honestly, I was thinking the quantum. Oh, you're all talking about something else. There, Ferris. Thank you, Ferrister. Thank you for hanging out. We'll be we'll be starting here in about 30 minutes. So, in fact, we're gonna start now-ish. All right, chat. So this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna be moving over to the captain's table setup. I'm gonna be muted. You'll hear music, and that's because I'm going to be going to set up everything with Space Tomato and Morphologist to talk to them, to get them set up, get everything ready to go. And then 30 minutes after that is when we're going to start. So we're going to start in about 30 minutes, but this is still the pre-show. And if those of you who are on YouTube, what's going to happen is when the actual show starts, you will automatically be moved to the Captain's Table podcast, like version of the show, which will be on the separate channel. And then when that's finished, we'll be moved back to here for the office hours. So, which is our sort of yak stream where we sit down and we just talk about, go over the reviews. So we'll watch the Star Citizen live after it's been done, and we'll look at like Alien Week and all that sort of thing. So. Yeah, but CIG Montreal will still stay active. CIG receiving probably Quebec subdivision for video games development. Yeah, I wouldn't. They're probably getting tax breaks from them. That's just weird thought. But yeah.
Greetings.
Hello. How are you?
Well, how are you?
Good. It's summer here, so I've got time.
Here too. It is so damn hot.
I can feel that. I feel that in my bones. Luckily, we're getting a storm coming through. Hey, Tomato, how's it going?
Yeah, I didn't know tomato was gonna be here. This I don't know. I don't think I can do this. That tomato guy. Mike's not even. He's not even here to listen.
Not even
to me.
here. Yeah. Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
his graphics card broke on his move back to Turkey.
Oof.
Yeah.
He's a number of like rough patches recently, man.
Yeah.
You can't just.
Now we're muted. Hey, chat, we'll be right back. We're getting things set up, and once everyone's good to go, we'll get started.